I think I'm live on YouTube now. So those of us who want to join via YouTube, let me just share the link. So it's also live on YouTube. So I've shared the link on the page. So colleagues who cannot join, you can let them join from YouTube. Right. So that is that. All right. Good afternoon once again. Let's look at Unit 4 of our course outline. We're looking at SQL, that's a standard language for relational databases. Right, so by way of introduction, I remember telling you in class that for databases, apart from using Microsoft Access, which you have seen in class, and you have used it to start creating a database yourself, we also have the SQL, that's a structured query language, which is also used as a database language to, create a database, manage, and do all that you want on a database. So it's a good skill that you acquire and learn to use it. So we want to go through it. And as I said, in Access, mostly what were you doing? All that you saw was a graphical user interface. You were just clicking things to create tables, create reports, create queries, and all that. But in SQL, most of the things that we're going to do will be using the command line. So here you have less of clicking, but more of using the keyboard in giving a command to bring things to happen. Now, again, in my SQL, though we have graphical aspect of it, it doesn't mean that you cannot have the, what do you call it? You cannot kind of not have a graphic. There's a graphic interface as well in SQL, but mostly people don't even use the graphical user interface. It's just a command line that they mostly use. So when you are working in my SQL, the most important thing is that you need to understand the syntax, the command line to use. Is that okay? Because that is the only thing. That will help you to love it. So here we want to explore it a bit and then know the things that we need to understand in SQL. Now, we're saying that a database language must perform tasks with a minimal effort and a command structure, and it deals with what syntax, as I said. So the syntax is just like a language that you must understand and know to use. So, for instance, I speak English and I want to learn French. So, if I want to learn French, there are rules that I must follow to learn to use to speak French. Is that okay? Yeah. So, that is the same thing here in SQL. Every language has, excuse me, its own syntax, and the syntax is just nothing but what? Rules that you must follow to what? Write syntax for SQL. All right. Now, SQL as a language also has a international standard order for it. And mainly we can talk about two main standards in SQL. These are the data definition language and then the data manipulation language. For data dictionary, it comes in just like that, because once you are dealing with database, definitely there will be what? Data dictionary. But the two things that we mostly focus in SQL is data definition language and then data manipulation language. Now, we have talked about this before in, I think, unit 1 or 2. Now, for every database, you need a data definition language to be able to define the schema or the structure of the database, how the database will look like. And so syntax like create database, that is a data definition language because it is bringing the whole database into being. It is bringing the whole database into being. And so anytime you issue that command or you use that syntax, create, it is going to tell SQL that you are bringing something to an existence, which is a database you are creating. Now, after creating a database, after defining all parameters, you are not just creating a database, you are creating a database because you want to organize records for an organization, for an event, or for a place. And so how do you now organize these records? So you need another language that will help you, or another leg that will help you to now get these records into the database. And that's what we term as well the data manipulation language. So these are other syntax of SQL that will actually enable you to be able to manage the database that you have created. So how do I get data into it? Now that I have data in the database, how do I get data out of the database? How do I print data out of it? How do I update data? How do I even delete data? So all these actions come into what we term as what data manipulation language. Are we getting it? Yeah. So for this unit, our main objective is that for us to be able to create database and relational structure using what SQL and be able to perform manipulations with it. It's just that I don't have access on this machine, but I'll demonstrate probably because you have access, or you have already created database with access. You can now switch to a SQL view in access, and then the data you have entered yourself, you use SQL to manipulate, add, or even delete or query some of them, right? So that is that. Okay. Now, it is good that we understand basic syntax in SQL. So SQL is relatively easy to learn. That one I must tell you. It's just that as Ghanaians as we are, whenever we are using computer and we have to use a keyboard to type something, we are kind of afraid. We don't want to do that. We are afraid to do that, which is very bad. Using SQL is just like you typing things with your keyboard and typing like letter or whatever with a keyboard. It doesn't take anything from you. It is normal that way. Are you getting it? Yes. So take it that way. But just that before you can type, you must understand the rules that govern how the language is what used. Because it's a language you don't understand. You are now getting to what understand the language. So how do you understand it? You say that follow a rule. And so we must understand the rule so that we'll be able to what use the language. I'm saying SQL is relatively easy language to learn because one, it is non-procedural. What I mean is that it doesn't follow any procedure. That one, you must do this. Two, you must do this. Three, you must do this. No. Despite the fact that we have rules, yes, the rules are there. That anytime I want to create a database, I must use this keyword called create. That is the rule. But there's no procedure as to how I should type the create. The create can be typed in small letters or in capital letters. The most important thing is that the rule says if I want to create a database, the keyword create must be followed by the name of the database, or the name of the keyword database, followed by the name of the database, and then I bring my semicolon, and then the database will be created. So that is the rule. But there's no procedure like go and pass here, go and pass here, go and pass here. So you specify what information you require rather than how to get it. Are you getting it? In SQL? You know, SQL does not require you to specify the access method to the data. This is the data that I want. This is what I want to do. So I just do it. But I don't tell people how I need to get the data. That's why it is non-procedural. Again, SQL, like most modern languages, is essentially format free. No, it means that part of the statement do not have to be typed at a particular location on the screen. Now, if you are looking at my screen, let me. If you I don't know if you can see where I'm marking with pen. If you can see that, so this is an example of an SQL syntax to do something, and I'll explain to you what it is doing. Now, you see that it look as if each statement is on a different line. There is no rule that says that all of them should behave this way. Somebody can decide to write all of them on one line. It will still work. The only thing is that where there is semicolon, I must bring the semicolon. Where there is comma, I must bring the comma. That is it. Where there should be bracket, I should bring the bracket. That is it. It doesn't mean that I should also type it line by line like this. No, I can put one command in one single line and it will still work. And it will still work. So that is why you see that it doesn't follow any rigid format. It is free format. The good thing is that you understand what you are doing and then you can write it in any format that you want. It doesn't have to follow like what you are seeing on the screen. What we are seeing on the screen, not mostly it is done because it makes it easy for people to now know or understand what you are doing. Is that okay? Because it makes it easy for me to read. So for instance, it says insert, select. These are manipulation language, data manipulation language. Insert means that I want to put data into the database. Select means that I want to probably take something out of the database. Or I want to select something and update it or delete it or something. Are you getting it? Create means that I'm bringing something into being. So I'm bringing a new table, I'm bringing a new database to being, right? So these are keywords. And the first one is a data definition language. The second two, they are data manipulation language. So you see an example here, create table, staff. Create table, staff. Now, the create table is a syntax. What it's telling me is that I want to create a table in a database, and that table, the name should be staff. Now, you remember that in Access, when we were creating table, we were just clicking something, and then a dialog box will come and then you give a name to the table. It was so simple. But this time around, we are saying that we are not clicking anything, but rather we are typing this command, and then a table will be created. And so the first line says create table staff into brackets. Something is going to happen. Staff normal. So that's the first attribute of the table. If you like it, the first field or the first column of the table is named staff normal. So this our first column. It is called staff number. If it were a table, it's called staff number. And then we are saying that the kind of data that will be captured in that column should be variable character. That's varchar, variable character. So alphabets. And the length of this alphabet should be just 5 letters. So for the staff ID, we only need what? 5 letters. It can be letters and figures together. Letters and figures together. Just 5 characters. Again, we have another column called name. And at the name column, we we are defining the data type that can be captured there. That is a variable character. It should be just 15. So in access, everything was there. So you just have to specify 15. You just type 15 there, and that is what you are done. But here, we have to consciously type all of them so that the table will be created for us in that order. But in Access, because we're using the graphical user interface, we only just do that, and then we click, and the table is created. And then we specify the data type in there. So for this table, we are going to have only 3 attributes: staff number, name, and then what? Salary. For salary, we say that it should be decimal because we know that money, we can still have decimals in a currency. Once the 50 pesos, 2 the 80 pesos. So this is a decimal. That is why the data type has been defined as what? Decimal. And it's given an example, 7.2. Right. So that's how it should what? Behave. That is how it should what? Behave. So the digits that it can take, it is telling us how it should behave. So this whole thing here is a command that somebody has issued in SQL to create a table in a database. And the table will have only 3 columns: staff number, staff name, and then staff salary. And for each of them, the data type for staff ID is what? Variable character, 15 characters, 5 characters. For name, 15 characters, only 15. So you cannot type beyond 15. And then for salary, you only need any figure with decimal. So if you type 250 pesos, it will still accept it. All right. So it can only accept 7-digit amounts and then only 2 decimal places. That's what this one means. So for instance, I can write up to maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that's what? 1 million. So you can take an amount up to what? 1 million. And then if there's any decimal, it will just be what? Only 2 decimal places. So I can have 1 million and maybe 60 pesos. So just 2 digits. So you can take from 1 up to 1 million digits in the salary what? Column. Are we getting it? Yes. So you cannot go to trillion, but it can go to up to what? Millions. That is why we have 7 column a comma 2. So the 7 is telling you the first digits, and then the 2 is after the decimal. What digit can be after the decimal? Only 2. So that is that. So where I've circled is telling us that is a command that is going to create a table. And the command is going to create a table which will have a name, staff. And the table will have these attributes, only 3: staff number, staff name, and then staff salary. The rest is just the data type that each field is going to take. That's it. Now, let's look at, so here, the first command, clearly, that's a DDL, a data definition language, that which is used to define the schema or the structure of a database. The schema or the structure of the database. So that's an example of what? A DDL. Now let's look at the second line. Insert into staff values. Now I have created a table. The table is empty. So I want to enter data into the table. Now you realize that in Access, we were only created a table, all right, and we created a form, and now we're entering the data ourselves one after the other, and then it was going to the table. Very nice, very so nice for us. But in SQL, we will not see any graphical interface like this. I'll show you how it looks like and you'll see it. But then I'll just go straight. I've already created a table, so the table is there. Now I want to enter data into the table. So that's why I use a key term called insert. So insert is a data manipulation language, DML. DML is a data manipulation language. So I'm going to enter data into the table. So this is how the syntax looks like. It says insert into what? Where should I insert into? A table called staff, right? Table called staff. What? Values. What values am I looking at? So now say that the value should be what? In brackets. So the first column, which is staff ID, will enter SGene16. So you see that the characters are not more than 5. We have only 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 characters, but they cannot exceed what? 5. It can be less than 5, but not more than 5. The second column is our name. So we'll have what? Brown there. And then the last column, which is what? Salary. We have 8,300. So if I want to enter 1,000 records, after this set, I have to bring a comma here. And then I'll open another bracket and write the second set of data. Third bracket, write the second set of data in that order. So when I'm done, then I will bring this semicolon, telling SQL that I'm done with my statement. And so it should take action. So once I press the enter key on my keyboard, the table will be populated with all these data. With all these data. So this statement is to just get these records here into the table. 3 records. Staff number, name, and then the salary into the table that we have created. And that's a data manipulation language. And the third one here, another syntax. So another keyword in SQL called select. Select. It is also a data manipulation language. It's also a DML, data manipulation language. Now we have entered data into the table. If we want to get data out of the table, this is the keyword we use in SQL. Where do I want to remove the data from? Where do I want to get the data from? It says select staff number, name, and salary from staff. So this is a very simple thing that is happening here. What are we saying? We have a table and we want to pull a record out of that table. So the select is a keyword. What are we selecting? We are selecting the staff ID, name, and then salary. From where? From a table called staff. So that is what the syntax is doing. So once we press the enter key, this will be queried out of the table and it will be displayed for us to see it. So if assuming that I have entered like 60 records in this table, all of them will come. All the 60 records will come with different IDs, different names, and all that. Because I did not include any condition. I only said that is you select the staff ID, name, and then salary. From where? The table called staff. And all these records will come. So I'll do a demonstration for us to see very soon. So that is how it looks like. That is how it looks like. All right, so I'm just going to pause here. From this point up to this point, if anybody have a question, please feel free to ask before I can proceed. Please, is there any question? Am I speaking with some people here?